That night, the savage attacked the entire city, with almost all buildings set ablaze by their assault. Young Hayato, holding hands with the little girl, ran together, trying to escape the savage's onslaught. However, a savage's attack struck them, sending Hayato's small body flying and injuring him. He saw a savage about to harm the little girl and screamed hysterically. Then tanks fired upon the savage. Hayato immediately ran toward the little girl's body, but unfortunately, his friend was severely injured and could be saved. Hayato hugged her lifeless body. This scene was a recurring nightmare experienced by Kizuragi Hayato over the past few nights. At that moment, Hayato was on a plane, still wondering who the girl in his dreams was. He gazed at a place in the middle of the ocean, an academy called Little Garden. Soon, Hayato would land there and begin living at the academy. Upon arrival, he admired the place, which was indeed enormous. As he disembarked from the plane, he suddenly saw a banner welcoming him. Two girls' voices echoed through loudspeakers, calling his name and referring to him as the person with the highest 100 compatibility. The voices continued calling and searching for him, but Hayato chose to remain silent and hide. He quickly ran away when a container truck passed by. The two girls assumed Hayato was on the last flight and waited for him there. Hayato promptly changed into his uniform and followed the directions on his phone's app. He approached a crowd and asked one of them if this was the new student orientation venue. Fritz Granz confirmed it was the correct place. Suddenly, a student named Raditya St. Emilian shouted, suspecting that the student was Hayato. Raditya's outburst caused a commotion among the students, who remarked that Hayato was the top-ranked student. They surrounded him, eager to confirm if he was indeed Hayato, with some even asking for his autograph. Fortunately, he managed to escape the crowd and hid behind a wall. Just as he breathed a sigh of relief, a student suddenly shouted a welcome and tackled Hayato, causing them both to fall. The student hugged him tightly, expressing excitement at Hayato's arrival. Hayato felt pain from the student's weight and didn't even know who he was. He asked for the student's name, who introduced himself as Emil Crossfode, also a new student at Little Garden. Emil smiled happily at Hayato, leaving him confused. Raditya approached Hayato and bowed, apologizing for her earlier outburst. Fritz blamed Raditya, pressing her head down as she bowed to Hayato, which angered her. She was upset because Fritz treated her like a child. However, Fritz suggested that Raditya blame her own height, which made her look like a child. Emil informed Hayato that Fritz and Raditya had been close since childhood. Emil's closeness to Hayato prompted Fritz to comment on how familiar they seemed despite just meeting. Raditya even remarked that they were too close, as if Emil wasn't a guy. The entrance ceremony for the new students commenced, guided by two second-year students who also served as vice presidents of the student council, Erika Kendall and Leedy Steinberg. They invited the captain of Little Garden and student council president, Claire Harvey, to address the newcomers. As Claire stepped forward to speak, two students, Noah Sheldon and Shumei Liu, arrived breathlessly, apologizing for their tardiness. Claire questioned their audacity for arriving late to such an important event. They explained that they had gone to the airport to meet Hayato but couldn't find him. Leedy reprimanded them, pointing out that Hayato was already present. Claire declared that their disregard for rules made them unfit for Little Garden and ordered them to pack their belongings and leave. Just as Hayato was about to raise his hand to speak, Emil stood up and protested, calling the decision excessive. Emil argued that expelling students for a single mistake, regardless of their status, was unfair. Hayato tried to intervene, but Emil resisted, expressing disdain for the abuse of power. Leedy scolded both Emil and Hayato, but Hayato cautiously agreed that the punishment seemed harsh. Claire responded that all students at Little Garden were not ordinary. They were aspiring slayers who risked their lives against the savage. In battle, a single mistake could be fatal and jeopardize the entire squadron, making disobedience a matter of life and death. Emil countered, suggesting that orders themselves could be flawed, but Erika interrupted, insisting that Claire's commands, as the leader of the military department, were absolute. Emil provocatively mentioned that Hayato's compatibility with the 100 was higher than Claire's. Leedy, angered by the disrespect towards Claire, threatened to expel Emil if she insulted Claire again. Emil defiantly challenged this, prompting Hayato to swiftly silence her. Claire then announced that Emil, along with Noah and Shumei, were expelled from Little Garden. As Hayato restrained Emil from reacting further, Claire inquired if Hayato objected to their expulsion. After a brief hesitation, Claire pressed him for an answer. Hayato admitted his objection, surprising everyone. He explained that Noah and Shumei were late because they were searching for him, and if that hadn't occurred, Emil wouldn't have spoken out. Although he felt unqualified to offer an opinion, he pleaded for Claire's leniency. Lady accused Hayato of being impudent, but Claire intervened. She proposed a duel to Hayato. If he could defeat her, Emil, Noah, and Shumei would not be expelled. The duel was scheduled for the following afternoon in the main Coliseum. Before Hayato could voice his concerns, Emil confidently accepted the challenge, assuring Hayato of his victory. After the ceremony concluded, Hayato confronted Emil about accepting the challenge without consulting him, especially since their opponent was the strongest individual in Little Garden. Emil reassured Hayato of his capability to win the duel. Hayato felt Emil's expectations were too high. They entered an elevator, and Emil introduced Hayato to her close friend, the renowned technologist and head of 100 research at Little Garden, Charlotte Demandiez. They exchanged greetings. Mei, Charlotte's assistant, sniffed around Hayato and remarked that despite being from Yamato, he didn't smell like soy sauce. Emil mentioned that Charlotte was considered a child prodigy, which surprised Hayato. Charlotte jokingly asked if Emil was teasing her by calling her a child, as she was of marriageable age. Charlotte referred to Emil as Emil, prompting Emil to pinch Charlotte's cheek in correction. Charlotte was surprised that someone who had never used 100 before dared to challenge Claire to a duel. She had heard the news from Rizz. Rizz was the autonomous computer that managed everything in Little Garden, and she was also capable of interacting with people. Charlotte then showed Hayato his 100 and explained that the 100 was the only effective weapon against the savage creatures. However, only humans who could react to the variable stone were able to use it, and these humans were called Slayers. The 100 could change form depending on its user, which was why this magical weapon earned its name. Claire used a dragon-type 100, so it was no surprise that she was so powerful. While the forms and combat styles of the 100 varied, their sole purpose was to protect humanity. Charlotte asked Hayato if, now that he had 100 in his hands, he was prepared to take on the responsibility and if he was ready for what was to come. Without hesitation, Hayato affirmed that he was ready and accepted his 100. Charlotte had already prepared a training arena and asked Hayato to change into his variable suit. She also invited both Hayato and Emil to use the training grounds as much as they wanted. After changing into the variable suit, Hayato noticed that the outfit felt a bit tight. Emil assured him that the suit could adjust its shape. Suddenly, Emil playfully asked where Hayato was looking. Hayato replied, reminding her that they were both guys. Emil then instructed Hayato to grip the 100, focus his mind on transforming it into a weapon, and say 100 on to activate it. Understanding the process, Hayato tried activating his 100. He imagined the kind of weapon he wanted, and after a moment, the 100 responded. Charlotte, observing through the monitor, announced that Hayato's 100 was called Flying Swallow, and that it was a night-type weapon. Emil excitedly remarked that Hayato's 100 was pretty cool and declared that she wouldn't be outdone. Curious, Hayato asked if Emil already had 100. Emil proudly confirmed that she did and immediately activated it. Hayato was eager to see what kind of weapon Emil wielded. She revealed that her 100 was called Arms Shroud, and that it belonged to a special innocence-type category. Emil reminded Hayato that their duel with Claire was the next day and urged him to start training seriously. Without warning, Emil fired her weapon at Hayato. Instinctively, he summoned an energy shield to block the attack. Impressed, Emil praised Hayato for being able to generate a protective barrier so quickly. Hayato, however, insisted that it was just a fluke and scolded Emil for attacking him without warning. Emil playfully argued that the student council president wouldn't wait for anyone and continued firing multiple shots at Hayato. Suddenly, Hayato disappeared from her sight. He managed to defend himself against the barrage of attacks, and Emil, amazed by his skill, couldn't help but acknowledge his talent. She then suggested that they intensify their training with stronger attacks. After their session, Emil complimented Hayato on his hard work and expressed her confidence that he would easily win the duel. Just then, Hayato received a message from his younger sister, Karen. He had promised to visit her in the hospital after the entrance ceremony. Karen had been in fragile health and was receiving care in the hospital. Hayato's enrollment in Little Garden was contingent on Karen receiving complete medical support. Without wasting time, Hayato hurried to see his sister. He immediately apologized for being late. Karen, slightly sulking, playfully complained about his tardiness. To cheer her up, Hayato kissed her forehead, which made Karen smile and forgive him. She then asked how the entrance ceremony went. Hayato simply replied that it was a long story. Just as they were talking, the nurse entered the room. Her revealing outfit momentarily left Hayato speechless. The nurse named Miharu. informed him that visiting hours were over. Hayato quickly apologized. Karin teased him, calling him a flirt for blushing while looking at Miharu's chest. Flustered, Hayato denied it, while Miharu smiled at his reaction. Hayato returned to his room only to be shocked when he found the lights already on. He was even more surprised to see Emil fresh out of the shower. Emil immediately screamed and started throwing things at Hayato until he passed out. When Hayato regained consciousness, he was startled to find his head resting on Emil's lap. He quickly jumped up, accidentally bumping into Emil's face. Both of them blurted out, "What are you doing?" in unison. Emil blamed Hayato for suddenly waking up, while Hayato protested that he was shocked to find himself on another guy's lap. Emil continued to scold him for entering without permission. Hayato argued that it was his room after all. Emil smiled mischievously and revealed that they would be sharing the room together. She then asked Hayato to take off his uniform so she could sew the loose button back on. While Emil was trying to sew, Hayato offered to do it himself, but Emil insisted that tomorrow's duel was more important. She told him to let her help. While sewing, Emil accidentally pricked her finger, causing it to bleed. Without thinking, Hayato grabbed her hand, put her finger in his mouth to suck the blood, and then applied a band-aid. Emil brushed it off as a minor injury, but Hayato explained that it was just a habit. Having survived a savage attack in the past, he panicked whenever he saw someone injured. Emil smiled softly and thanked Hayato. The next day at the main coliseum, Hayato and Claire stood ready for their duel. The stands were packed with students eager to watch the match. Claire asked if Hayato was ready. He responded that, like it or not, he had to be. Claire activated her 100 first, transforming and equipping herself with weapons on both sides. It was then Hayato's turn to activate his 100, summoning his long sword and preparing himself. The announcer declared the official start of the duel between Claire and Hayato, and the crowd erupted with excitement. Claire, with a confident expression, challenged Hayato to show her his full strength. That day, the duel between Claire, the student council president of Little Garden, and Hayato, the new student, was about to begin. Noah and Shumei hoped that Hayato wouldn't get hurt since he was fighting for their sake. Lidi then explained the duel's rules. The time limit was 15 minutes, and the match would end if one of them passed out, ran out of energy, or had their weapons stripped away. Suddenly, Claire told Lidi that she wouldn't be using her full arsenal for this duel. Hayato was still confused about what she meant by that. The fighting technique used by certain people at this school was to battle at full power by unleashing all the energy of their weapon. Claire mentioned that if the match ended too quickly, she'd feel bad for the audience. Emil then explained that this meant Claire was holding back her strength. Hayato was shocked when Emil spoke to him, telling him that she would support him from behind and instructing him to follow the plan they had practiced yesterday. Erika scolded Hayato, saying that receiving assistance in a duel was a violation, but Claire told Erika to let it slide since Hayato was a new student. She was giving him some leniency. The duel was set to begin in 10 seconds, and the audience grew tense with anticipation. Claire told Hayato to show her his strength. Suddenly, Hayato was thrown off balance and crashed into Claire, landing on top of her. As he tried to get up, he accidentally pressed his hand against Claire's chest, causing her to gasp and scream. Claire immediately scolded him, telling him not to touch her inappropriately. It was then that Hayato realized what he had just done. His hand had landed on a sensitive area. He quickly apologized, explaining that he still wasn't able to control his power properly. Claire, however, refused to forgive him, furious that Hayato had squeezed her chest when no one had ever touched her before. Claire launched multiple attacks at Hayato, forcing him to dodge frantically. As she closed the distance, she landed a punch to his stomach and followed up with a powerful kick. Hayato was sent flying backward. Claire then unleashed her Alicitarian attack, and Emil immediately instructed Hayato to use his energy shield. Hayato managed to block the attack successfully, prompting Claire to compliment his skill. Hayato thanked Emil for her guidance. Emil suddenly asked when exactly Hayato had grabbed Claire's chest. Hayato, frustrated, explained that it was an accident and was confused as to why Emil seemed angry at him. Emil admitted that their original plan had failed, but that didn't mean their strategy was a complete loss. She urged Hayato to attack again. Hayato rushed toward Claire, attempting to slash at her with his sword, but Claire effortlessly deflected his strike. She taunted him, asking if that was all he had. She then fired multiple shots at him, forcing him to dodge once again. Emil instructed him to use the method they had practiced. Hayato stood still, focusing his mind. Lidi and Erika were puzzled by what he was doing, but Emil explained that it was part of their training. Hayato concentrated, then suddenly leaped high into the air, swinging his sword down with all his might, unleashing a massive attack directly at Claire. The strike created a large explosion right in front of her. Emil cheered, excited that Hayato had successfully executed the attack. However, Hayato was stunned when he saw that Claire had managed to create a shield to protect herself from the blast. Claire was surprised by the attack but acknowledged that Hayato's effort wasn't wasted. She then prepared to launch a finishing move. She aimed all of her weapons at Hayato, who struggled to defend himself. The audience grew concerned as Hayato lay in the middle of the explosion site. The announcer was about to declare the match over, but Hayato suddenly spoke up, stating that he hadn't given up yet. Emil started to worry about him. Claire commended Hayato's fighting spirit, saying it was worth testing further. She then summoned a new weapon, the Buster Cannon. Lydie was shocked that Claire would use such a powerful weapon against a new student. Emil quickly warned Hayato that it was dangerous. Hayato, meanwhile, felt his body heating up. Claire prepared to launch her final attack at Hayato, and the energy blast shot toward him. But to everyone's surprise, Hayato appeared right in front of Claire in an instant and destroyed the Buster Cannon with his sword. He then swung his blade at Claire with incredible speed, forcing her into a corner. Claire was astonished by Hayato's strength, and Fritz, who was watching, couldn't believe how different Hayato's movements were compared to before. As Hayato managed to corner Claire, she immediately fired her Buster Cannon at close range, convinced that with such a short distance, Hayato would undoubtedly lose. However, to everyone's surprise, Hayato activated his full armament and deployed an end barrier. Lydie was baffled. How could someone who had only received their 100 2 days ago be this powerful? Hayato continued his relentless attacks, sending Claire flying. Realizing that she was the perfect queen and refusing to give up, Claire rose into the air. She unleashed a peel attack toward Hayato. Though he used his shield, Claire's petals seemed capable of piercing through his protective barrier. Claire then prepared to use her Buster Cannon at full power against Hayato. The attack was so powerful that it even pierced through the protective barriers of the Colosseum. Hayato weakened under the impact of the attack and collapsed unconscious. Emil immediately ran to Hayato, relieved that he was still alive. She demanded an explanation from Claire. Why had she used her full armament after stating earlier that she wouldn't? Charlotte arrived and asked Emil not to blame Claire, as statements made before a match were not part of the official duel rules. While Charlotte understood Emil's frustration, she confirmed that Claire was the winner of the duel. However, Claire disagreed. Even though she had won according to the rules, she admitted that she had lost to herself. Charlotte then declared the match a draw. Hayato was in the student infirmary, unaware of where he was at first. He was still unconscious but could faintly hear someone apologizing to him. When he finally woke up, he was shocked to see Claire standing in front of him. Hayato admitted that he had lost and asked if Emil had been expelled from Little Garden. Claire reassured him that she had withdrawn her decision. Hayato then mentioned that he didn't remember anything that happened during the fight. Curious, Claire asked who Hayato really was. She couldn't understand how he had managed to activate his full armament, deploy an end barrier, and even corner her in their duel. She was genuinely puzzled by his abilities. However, Hayato told her not to ask him about it. Suddenly, Emil burst into the room and accused Claire of trying to trick Hayato. Claire dismissed the accusation, saying she was simply checking on him, then quickly left. Emil immediately turned her attention back to Hayato, asking if he was alright. Hayato, feeling guilty, asked if he had been a burden to her. Emil assured him that his safety was her top priority. Meanwhile, in her car, Claire seemed lost in thought. Erika suggested that she shouldn't dwell too much on the duel, but Claire quickly denied that she was thinking about it. Erika then teasingly asked if she was thinking about how Hayato had touched her chest. Claire, caught off guard, denied it in a flustered manner. Lydie chimed in, saying that Claire wasn't the type to get upset over something like that. Erika then jokingly admitted that even she had never touched Claire's large chest. Embarrassed, Claire demanded that they drop the subject immediately. The next day, Emil checked Hayato's temperature and found that he had fully recovered. Hayato insisted that Emil was worrying too much as he was completely fine, except that he was starving. Emil handed him a bottle of milk, explaining that the more energy he used, the hungrier he would get. She then invited Hayato to go to Central since it was a holiday. Central was the metropolitan city of Little Garden. She was certain they would find plenty of good places to eat there. Hayato agreed to go, making Emil so excited that Hayato found her reaction amusing. She declared that what she truly wanted was to have a date with him. Upon arriving at Central, Emil was still in awe, almost unable to believe that they were actually on a ship. Hayato then asked why they were getting so much attention. Emil explained that the one attracting attention wasn't her, it was him. After all, everyone had watched the duel yesterday. She then offered Hayato some of her food. As he took a bite, Emil eagerly asked if it tasted good. Hayato replied that it was delicious, making Emil beam with satisfaction. Emil asked to taste Hayato's food. People around them noticed how close Hayato and Emil were getting, and some even started to suspect their relationship, especially since they were roommates. Hayato quickly suggested they go straight to a restaurant, but Emil wanted to visit a certain place first. Emil led Hayato to a scenic spot, which turned out to be a popular dating spot filled with couples. Emil explained that she wanted to go there because of the breathtaking ocean view. Hayato couldn't help but blush as he watched Emil standing in front of him. Emil mentioned that the atmosphere would feel even more romantic at sunset. Suddenly, Hayato's phone rang. It was Karan calling. She asked why he hadn't mentioned anything about his duel. Hayato apologized, saying he didn't want to worry his little sister. Karan told him that everyone at the hospital was talking about it, so she wanted to know what had happened. As she consulted her fortune, an image of a mysterious woman appeared, making her suspect that Hayato was with a girl. Hayato denied it, saying he wasn't with a girl, but Karan didn't believe him right away and insisted on meeting up. Karan met him in Central since she had received permission to go out. She pointed out that Hayato had just said he was alone. Hayato clarified that he hadn't said he was alone, just that he wasn't with a girl. Emil then introduced herself to Karan and mentioned that she was Hayato's roommate. Karan, looking skeptical, asked if Emil was really a guy. She even questioned whether Emil liked men. Karan then demanded to know if Emil was just a roommate and not trying to seduce her brother. Emil quickly reassured her that she wasn't like that. Satisfied, Karan warned Emil not to try anything funny with Hayato. As they were about to cross the street, Karan noticed a broadcast featuring the idol Kirishima Sakura. She excitedly said she had been listening to Sakura's songs all day. Sakura was well known and people called her the princess of the world. She was holding a concert that day on Zwei Island. Emil pointed out that Zwei Island wasn't too far from where they were. Karan eagerly said she wanted to go. Hayato reassured her that they would go there someday. Karan was overjoyed and made Hayato promise to keep his word. Emil then suggested they all go for lunch. Karan requested to go to the cafeteria since she had always wanted to visit. She excitedly browsed the menu, wanting to order several dishes. Hayato reminded her to be careful not to overeat. Karan insisted that everything on the menu looked delicious and asked Hayato to keep it a secret from Miharu. Emil offered to finish Karan's leftovers, but Karan refused, saying she only wanted Hayato to eat them. Karan praised the cafeteria food, saying it was delicious. Even though the food at the hospital was good, it didn't compare. Emil then offered Karan a taste of her pasta. Karan admitted the pasta was tasty, but quickly clarified that it didn't mean she approved of Emil. Hayato, confused, had no idea what Karan was talking about. Suddenly, Claire and her friends arrived. Claire greeted Hayato. Karan immediately called Claire the blonde who had hurt Hayato the day before. Claire overheard this and asked who the rude little girl was. Chris Steinberg introduced Karan as Hayato's younger sister. He then introduced himself as Claire's assistant, adding that he was still a second-year middle school student. Hayato greeted him politely. Claire then stated that she wanted Hayato's help with the student council. Emil immediately questioned why Hayato had to obey her, pointing out that since their duel ended in a draw, there was no reason for Hayato to follow her orders. Lidi quickly clarified that it wasn't a command, but rather a request. Erika said that another way to put it was being recruited. Claire explained that she was asking Hayato to join a special unit under the student council. Erika added that it was a direct order from the Warsland headquarters, the governing body of Little Garden. This meant that Hayato would remain a student but also take on missions like a slayer. Lidi explained that these missions included guarding various facilities, escorting, and even direct combat with the savage. Erika mentioned that because of the recent extermination of a savage nest, there was now a shortage of slayers and they urgently needed more recruits. Claire clarified that this was not a forced enlistment, but rather, she saw it as a noble duty. In her opinion, those blessed with power had an obligation to help the defenseless. Emil immediately expressed her desire to join Hayato, but Lidi pointed out that Emil did not meet the requirements. She explained that facing the savage required courage, and without it, a person would only be a burden to others. Emil then asked if she needed to prove herself by dueling Claire. Lidi found this disrespectful and questioned what Emil was even capable of. Emil confidently responded that she could duel anyone, including Lidi, and was even willing to prove it right there. Without hesitation, Emil activated her 100. Claire, surprised, realized that Emil possessed a dragon-type 100. Emil then challenged Lidi to prepare for battle. Lidi, provoked by Emil's confidence, activated her own 100 in response. Erika tried to intervene, urging Lidi to stop, but Lidi refused. In her opinion, someone like Emil needed to be taught a lesson. Emil prepared to launch an attack, but Hayato warned her not to fire recklessly since they were in a public space. Emil quickly adjusted her weapon and changed its form. The duel began with Lidi launching an attack at Emil, but Emil effortlessly deflected it. She even transformed her weapon into a boomerang-like shape that flew straight toward Lidi. The two of them continued exchanging attacks until suddenly, an emergency alarm blared throughout the area. Claire immediately called for Lidi to stop, stating that they had a more important enemy to fight than Emil. Lidi halted the duel and turned her focus toward the situation at hand. Hayato asked what was happening, and Claire informed him that it was a state of emergency. Reports had just come in that a savage had appeared in the Zwei Islands. Karian, shocked, pointed out that the Zwei Islands were where Sakura was holding her concert. Claire acknowledged this and said she would return later to hear Hayato's answer regarding the selection process. Just then, Charlotte arrived and approached Claire. She instructed Claire to take both Hayato and Emil along with her. Charlotte explained that this would be Hayato's first real battle, then turned to him and asked, "Are you ready to join the fight?" Claire, Lidi, and Erika headed to the little garden control room to check the current situation with the savage. According to the monitoring data, 3 savage had been detected. There was damage in the center of Zwei Island, and the evacuation of the residents was almost complete. Chris, Hayato, and Emil also entered the control room. Mei greeted Hayato and Emil. Hayato asked what Mei was doing there, and she explained that she was working, then invited Chris to take his position. Mei mentioned that Chris was the lead analyst there, which surprised Hayato and Emil since Chris was only in his second year of middle school. Charlotte remarked that for Chris, middle school and high school were basically the same, and even someone like Warslarn would be embarrassed by his intelligence. The main screen displayed the 3rd savage, and Claire noted that it was a giant-sized one. Chris identified it as a Trenta-type savage, but its estimated power level was still unknown. Lidi commented that it would not be easy to handle, and Erika urged Claire to prepare. Claire told Charlotte that she was not inclined to allow Emil and Hayato to join the mission, even though they came highly recommended because they lacked experience. She pointed out that they might not even be able to handle a regular savage, let alone a Trenta-type, which was far more challenging. Charlotte asked about Claire's plan and whether the 3 of them would be going alone. Claire explained that the Warslarn support team would arrive in a few hours, and she hoped the 3 of them could hold out until then. Charlotte was surprised that Claire was willing to rely on the CEO Judal's older brother. Claire firmly responded that her decision was based on what was best for Little Garden as its captain. Claire then instructed Lidi and Erika to get ready. Suddenly, Hayato pleaded with Claire to let him join the mission. Claire scolded him, asking if he had not been paying attention to their conversation. Hayato acknowledged her concerns but reminded her about the noble duty she had mentioned before. He revealed that he had once been attacked by a savage, which caused him to lose part of his memory. If they waited for the support team, the city would suffer more destruction, and the lives and memories of the residents would be at risk. Although he was unsure of what he could do, he wanted permission to help. Charlotte interjected, saying it was not her idea to send Hayato, but rather Liza's. She argued that the best way to reduce risk and increase the operation's chances of success was to send Emil and Hayato along with Claire, Lidi, and Erika. Liza agreed, and with Hayato and Emil both pleading their case, Claire ultimately conceded, recognizing that if it was Liza's decision, she had to follow it. They began strategizing for the attack. Erika outlined the plan. Claire, Lidi, and herself would fight the regular savage at Point Alpha and then move on to face the Trenta-type at Point Gamma. Meanwhile, Hayato and Emil would handle the regular savage at Point Beta. Emil questioned why they could not all attack together. Claire explained that since Hayato and Emil were inexperienced in the field, her team would go out first to demonstrate how to fight savage. Lidi emphasized that once Hayato and Emil defeated the savage at Point Beta, their task would be complete. Hayato asked if they would not need help facing the Trenta-type, and Emil added that the savage seemed extremely powerful. Annoyed, Lidi insisted they not underestimate her, pointing out that her team had already defeated numerous savage. Claire reassured them, saying that she and the others were used to facing and overcoming Trenta-types. With the plan in place, they set out for Zwei Island. Erika was the first to dive in, quickly locating the savage. She executed her strategy by distracting the savage with gunfire before activating her 100. Erika's 100 was the Arsene type, allowing her to release chains to ensnare the savage. These chains, called Everlasting, were energy-based and could be freely adjusted in length. Once the savage was restrained, Claire aimed for its head, the core of the creature itself. Claire fired her attack toward the head of the savage. Its shell was as hard as steel. Once its core was exposed, Lidi immediately drilled into it. She was extremely fired up during the battle because she didn't want to be underestimated by the new students anymore. Lady put all of her energy into drilling through the savage's core to destroy it. She even called out to Emil, asking her to watch. Finally, the savage was defeated. Claire then signaled that it was time for Hayato and Emil's turn, instructing them to head to the beta point as soon as they reached the coordinates. Emil quickly pushed Hayato into the air, and they activated their hundreds. She held on to Hayato to stabilize their landing. Emil then devised a strategy. She would shoot to create a smoke screen, and Hayato would use that chance to attack the core. Emil fired at the savage, and as its vision was obscured, Hayato struck at its core. However, the savage's outer layer was incredibly tough, and he was unable to destroy it. Emil then broke the savage's arm to weaken it, giving Hayato another chance to attack the core. But once again, he failed and was thrown backward. The savage almost struck him, but Hayato swiftly dodged the attack. Emil then launched a finishing move with her bow, finally defeating the savage. Meanwhile, Erika had ensnared a Trenta-type savage using her everlasting. It was now Lidi's turn to drill into its core. Unfortunately, the savage managed to break free and struck Lidi, sending her flying. Erika was also thrown back as she struggled to maintain her grip on the chains. Claire was shocked by what she saw. Hayato suggested to Emil that they should assist in taking down the Trenta-type savage. However, Claire ordered them not to interfere, instructing them to stay in place since, according to the plan, only the student council would fight that particular savage. Claire prepared to fire at the savage. Just as she did, the savage also launched its own attack, causing their blasts to collide in midair. She attempted to fire again, but her weapon was low on energy due to the battle she had against Hayato the day before. The savage then aimed its attack at Claire, and Erika shouted in concern. Fortunately, Hayato quickly came to her rescue, lifting her into the air to avoid the explosion. Claire was startled, and Hayato asked if she was alright. Instead of answering, Claire scolded him, reminding him that she had told him to stay put. Hayato responded that he couldn't just stand by and watch his comrade be killed. Claire then asked what was going on with Hayato's hand. He had accidentally grabbed her chest. Realizing what he had done, Hayato immediately apologized. As he landed, he explained that it wasn't intentional. Claire commented that he had carried her in a princess lift. Erika then warned them that the savage was about to attack again. As Hayato and Claire turned to look, Hayato mentioned that they could dodge. However, Erika pointed out that the attack was aimed at the airport, and if they dodged, the refugees would be hit. Hayato asked Claire what they should do to stop the savage's attack. Claire stated that they needed to block it with a shield and expressed confidence that Hayato could do it. Hayato reassured her that now wasn't the time to hesitate. As the savage's attack was launched, they immediately released their energy at the same time to deflect it. After fighting with all their strength, they successfully diverted the explosion away from the airport. Hayato credited Claire for their success, but Claire insisted that it wasn't as if she had done it for him. Suddenly, Claire weakened and nearly collapsed. She admitted that she was barely able to hold her weapon any longer. Emil asked why they were still chatting during such a critical moment. Without hesitation, she leaped forward and stabbed the savage, but its tough shell was not easily broken. Debris from the attack fell and nearly hit Lidi, but Emil quickly shattered a large rock to protect her. When the savage turned to attack Emil, it sent Hayato into a panic. Emil pushed her power to the limit, which caused the front of her outfit to tear open. This exposed a scar on her chest, and Hayato immediately remembered his childhood friend from when they were attacked by a savage. Convinced that Emil was actually Emilia, he shouted her name. Hayato grabbed the savage's arm before it could strike Emil and urgently asked if she was okay. Emil, surprised, asked if Hayato had started to remember her. Hayato admitted that he couldn't recall everything yet, but he knew for sure that Emil was his childhood friend, Hermit Emilia. Emil was overwhelmed with emotion and began to cry because Hayato had saved her again. Hayato, however, urged her to talk about it later and told her to run and take Lidi to a safer place. Though reluctant, Emil obeyed, lifting Lidi and carrying her to safety. As the savage knocked Hayato to the ground, Emil feared that he had been defeated. But just as the savage moved to strike her, its arm was suddenly severed. Hayato had successfully activated his full armament. The savage attacked again, and Hayato blocked its strike. Emil shouted at him to stay conscious. Fueled by determination, Hayato launched a relentless assault on the savage's core, but the creature managed to throw him aside. Hayato fired another attack, but it missed and exploded near Erika. Luckily, Claire managed to shield her just in time. Claire, concerned, asked Erika if she was okay, to which Erika gratefully responded with thanks. Claire, puzzled, wondered what was happening to Hayato. Meanwhile, he flew upward and prepared a maximum power attack. Emil, alarmed, yelled at him to stop. Desperate to bring him back to his senses, she jumped and kissed him. The kiss worked. Hayato snapped out of his battle frenzy and softly called out Emilia's name. Emil told him to save their conversation for later since they still needed to defeat the savage. She instructed Hayato to channel his energy into the flying swallow and target the savage's core. Doubtful, Hayato asked if he could really do it, but Emil assured him that he could. Following Emil's guidance, Hayato successfully directed his energy into the weapon, not only destroying the savage's core, but also slicing the creature in half. Relieved, Hayato exhaled in triumph and Emil hugged him tightly. As they embraced, Claire suddenly called out to them. She was shocked to realize that Emil had a bus and had kissed Hayato during the battle. Laughing, Emil admitted that her disguise had finally been exposed. After the battle, the team returned promptly. Lidi and Erika were given intensive medical treatment. As the aircraft took off, Hayato noticed a message of gratitude from the local residents. Feeling a sense of relief, he was glad that everyone in the area had been protected. Erika remarked that moments like these were the reason they continued to fight. Later, Hayato visited Karen in the hospital and recounted the battle. Karen was delighted to hear that he had defeated the savage. Hayato emphasized that he hadn't fought alone. It was a team effort with Emil, Claire, Lidi, and Erika. Karen expressed disappointment that Sakura's concert had been cancelled, but was relieved that no one was hurt. She then playfully demanded a reward for all the worry he had caused her. In response, Hayato kissed her forehead, making Karen smile. Back in their dorm, Emil revealed to Hayato that Claire had approved her request to continue pretending to be a boy, though she was no longer allowed to stay in their shared room. Hayato pressed Emil to explain everything she knew, eager for answers. Emil asked Hayato to explain about the variants first. They then shared everything they knew about the savages. Hayato asked if Emil was infected with the savage virus. Emil admitted it and revealed that Hayato was also infected because he had sucked her blood while saving her. The savage virus is extremely aggressive and most people who get infected die. However, if they survive, their 100 value increases, making them the most compatible users. Charlotte refers to those infected as variants. In their world, the number of variants is less than 10, which is why Emil was sure that she and Hayato would meet again someday. She asked Charlotte to check the results of every 100 tests worldwide. That was the reason Emil joined Little Garden. She knew Hayato would eventually arrive. Emil also mentioned that she didn't expect Charlotte to be assigned to Warsland Academy. Hayato then asked why Emil disguised herself as a boy. Emil explained that she wanted to share a room with Hayato. She hinted that there was another reason but said it would be bad if anyone found out. Hayato decided to let her explain later. He also asked why he lost his memory during battles and if it was caused by the variant. Emil confirmed this, explaining that when Hayato's life is in danger, the virus activates on its own, causing him to go berserk and lose consciousness. This is one of the symptoms of a variant. However, Emil was able to control it through training. Hayato asked if he could do the same, and Emil reassured him that he definitely could if he trained diligently. She even suggested they train together, and Hayato thanked her for the offer. Emil also thanked Hayato for saving her in Gutenberg and on that day. She had wanted to express her gratitude for a long time. As she held Hayato's hand, he became flustered and quickly stood up to make tea, but Emil offered to do it instead. Suddenly, Hayato lost control of his body, pinning Emil down and accidentally grabbing her chest. Emil suspected it was a side effect of the virus. To suppress the active virus, Emil kissed Hayato, explaining that an inactive virus, like hers, was needed to calm it down. She then asked if Hayato disliked kissing her. Hayato quickly denied it, and the two were about to kiss again when Claire suddenly entered the room, shocked to see them in such a compromising position. Hayato tried to explain that it wasn't what it looked like and quickly stood up, but he tripped over Emil's foot and accidentally fell on Claire, leading to an unintentional kiss. Alyssa then arrived and asked what they were doing. Hayato quickly moved away and apologized. Claire, blushing, accused Hayato of stealing her first kiss. Despite Hayato's repeated apologies, Claire told him there was no need to apologize to her. Alyssa was puzzled by Claire's sudden kindness toward Hayato and even suspected that something strange had happened the previous day. Claire denied it. Emil then asked why Claire had come to the room in the first place. Claire explained that she was there to ensure Emil had moved rooms, as it was her duty as the student council president to prevent any incidents from happening. Emil pointed out that Claire had just kissed Hayato herself. Teasingly, Emil asked Hayato to kiss her again so she wouldn't lose to Claire, but Claire quickly intervened to stop them. Their commotion was loud enough to be heard from several nearby rooms. Sakura's concert, which was originally scheduled to take place on Zwei Island, has been rescheduled for next month. Sakura's management has entrusted the security to Little Garden, but with one condition: there is one person Sakura specifically wants as her bodyguard. That day, Hayato and his friends who were participating in the selection process were training in combat. Hayato and Emil were paired against Fritz and Reiitia. Reiitia was quite agile, but her small frame made her attacks easy for Hayato to dodge. When Fritz was about to aim at Hayato, Emil quickly stepped in to block the attack and signaled for Hayato to counterattack. Fritz claimed that his weapon had run out of energy, but it turned out he still had some left. In a moment of danger, Hayato began to learn how to control himself and stay conscious. When Fritz fired his attack, Hayato immediately blocked it, sending Fritz flying into the wall. Fritz admitted defeat and surrendered. Noah and Shumei applauded those who were training. Noah commented that Hayato's movements were so fast that she could barely see them. Shumei noted that those who made it through the selection process weren't ordinary people. Emil congratulated Hayato on being able to control his variant abilities. Fritz was surprised that Hayato could cut through his attack. Reiitia admitted that she thought she would be stronger after entering the school, but making it into the selection process now seemed like just a dream. Emil reassured her that wasn't true. After all, not just anyone could push Hayato into activating his full arsenal. Reiitia understood, and Fritz, scratching his head, remarked that the two of them had finally gotten stronger. Reiitia, annoyed, scolded Fritz for ruffling her hair. Suddenly, Erika arrived with a message. Claire was calling for Hayato because a selection mission was awaiting him. Hayato went to meet Claire, who informed him that Sakura had specifically requested him to be her bodyguard. Sakura wanted Hayato to be on Zwei Island for her concert next weekend. Hayato asked why it had to be him. Claire explained that Sakura's management didn't provide a clear reason, but as long as there was a possibility of Savage appearing in the Zwei Island region, protection was necessary. Erika added that during last month's mission, 7 Savage had been detected. They fought 3 of them, while the other 4 were shot down before landing. However, only 1 was confirmed dead, meaning there were still 3 Savage possibly alive somewhere. This could turn into a dangerous mission. Claire then asked for Hayato's decision. Hayato accepted the mission and prepared himself for it. Claire approved of his response, and since Hayato would be using up his weekend for this, she said she would make it up to him. She then asked what he wanted in return, and Hayato made a request. That day, Hayato went to the hospital to visit Karin. He told her that he would be serving as Sakura's bodyguard for her concert on Zwei Island next weekend. Karin was so shocked that she screamed, prompting Hayato to ask her to lower her voice. Karin couldn't believe it. It felt like a dream come true that Hayato would be meeting Sakura in person. She admitted that she had always wanted to meet Sakura at least once in her lifetime. Hayato assured her that it would happen because he had already prepared a concert ticket for her. Karin could hardly believe it. Hayato explained that he had asked Claire to arrange a special ticket just for her. Karin smiled, realizing that Claire was actually a kind person. Then Karin mentioned that something had been on her mind. She had just seen a fortune reading about Hayato. According to it, Hayato needed to be cautious around women and water. Hayato promised to keep that in mind. He then asked if there was anything else Karin wanted. Karin excitedly requested that, if possible, Hayato should get Sakura's autograph for her. That morning, Emil woke Hayato up while lying beside him. Hayato was startled and asked if Emil had sneaked in again. Emil laughed and said she really wanted to go on a date with him. She then asked if Hayato had any plans that morning. Hayato replied that he had been informed the day before that his mission would take place early in the morning. Emil understood and wished him luck on his mission. As Hayato prepared for his mission, Lee asked if he had everything ready. Hayato confirmed that he had brought a tracking device and an end tranquilizer. Lee reminded him not to let his guard down since this was his first escort mission. Sakura and her manager, Soful, met up with Lee and Hayato at the airport. Lee greeted Sakura and introduced herself. Sakura also greeted Hayato. Afterward, Hayato, Soful, and Lee followed Sakura to the car. Along the way, Sakura smiled at her fans. Hayato noted how crowded it was, but Soful mentioned that it was actually a light crowd compared to usual. While in the car, Hayato wondered why someone as famous as Sakura had chosen him as her bodyguard. Sakura suddenly asked what he was thinking about, but Hayato quickly said it was nothing. Sakura then asked if Hayato liked her songs. Hayato admitted that he rarely listened to music, but he mentioned that his younger sister was a huge fan of hers. He tried to recall one of her song titles but mispronounced it. Sakura laughed and told him it was okay, urging him not to be too stiff around her. When they arrived at the inn, Hayato opened the door for Sakura and invited her in. Seeing her hesitate, Hayato asked why she wasn't going in. Sakura replied that as a bodyguard, there was something important he needed to do first. Hayato acknowledged that he needed to check the room and pulled out his tracking device. Before entering, Sakura asked if he was really Hayato. He confirmed that he was, adding that this was actually his first time guarding someone. He then proceeded to inspect the room. Once he confirmed it was safe, Hayato invited Sakura inside. She opened the curtains and commented that they were finally alone together. Suddenly, she asked if Hayato wanted to marry her. She then showed him a video of him fighting Savage. Hayato was shocked and asked where she had gotten the video. Sakura explained that she had found it on Cybernet, though it had since been deleted. She told him that after seeing the video, she immediately became interested in him, the hero who had saved Zwei Island. Sakura noted that Hayato wasn't quite what she had imagined. She found him somewhat awkward, which made him even cuter. Hayato was taken aback by her words. Sakura then suggested that they should date first before getting married. Hayato couldn't understand why she was saying all of this to him.